What's up guys, welcome back to the channel. So I haven't been posting that much recently just because I've been trying to finish up this mantle. This client wanted all this built up. We even had to do all this crown over here. It's pretty intense. So I spent a lot of time doing this and I was working really hard and really didn't have time to kind of film the whole thing. And then what happened was I eventually woke up. So today we have a very special video for you. We're going to be looking at some awesome historic trim work and we're going to be hosted by none other than Brent Hull. So Brent right here is a master craftsman, master builder with a passion for trim. When was this house built, first of all?
28.
There was no dual bevel compound sliding DeWalt, right, back in those days. So how are these guys accomplishing it? There's some machinery, right?
Yeah, so the machinery hits the woodworking industry in the 1870s, 1880s, and really by 1890, every tool that we have in our shop today, wide belt sanders, carvers, not a CNC, but basically the duplicate carvers and everything else were available in shops at that time. And job site hand tools are still all hand tools, right? You don't even get chop saws till like the 70s or the 80s. And so there were still guys in the 50s and 60s sharpening their hand tools to bring them to work. And so, now we have disposable tools and that really wasn't an idea. But here's something that people should look at and go, oh my gosh, look at all that carving. I want carving in my house. Okay, but realize that this is a very organized carving. If you look at this, okay, this is called an egg and dart, okay, and it's got a little shell motif instead of this egg, right? But look what happens right here on the corner and then a corner and the corner, okay?
That's amazing.
That what they're doing is this is very carefully laid out, okay? So that all these pieces are measured, that this organization of those eggs and where this leaf ends, so that they'll carve a leaf here so we have an organized corner. We have tried in the past, and this is how I know this, to take an egg and dart molding and apply it to a door. And what ends up happening is these things never lay out right. And so your egg and dart will go, all of a sudden you're cutting through an egg and it looks like a butt cheek sometimes, literally, where those two things come together. And you're just like, ah. So you realize that these things are actually carefully laid out so that even the organization of that little, the rope detail is organized and laid out.
So that means every piece on here was made for this mantle.
Exactly. So what would happen is the architect would have drawn something up, but the craftsman would have had to, take his, dividers and go, okay, there, okay, this is going to have to lay out. I got to shrink this down so that I get the equal number of eggs, and it's very carefully laid out. So, and then this carving is part of a tradition, right? And this shell motif and this is called a scrolling volute with these little plant motifs. This flower, this swag, see that's a swag, that's a floral arrangement laid in a swag, and so is copying tradition. And so it's not just I want carving, and people then go, well, I can't get carving. Okay, well I'm gonna buy some carvings from somewhere, and they end up applying these things. It just doesn't have the same punch as this, and so you realize how much work goes into this. That even this egg and dart has the leaf in the corner. Yeah. So it's really carefully crafted. People just don't look at it and go, oh, I can do that. You really can't, right? It really takes a lot of work. This basically is that cornice, right? What you have is in your cornice you have three parts. You have a cyma, you have a corona, and then you have a bed mold. You can end up making this up, right? You've got a molding here, you're building this box. This little modillion block is here and it's supported by the bed mold. But there's a way of thinking about these moldings that, for instance, this is called a supporting molding, okay? Because it lifts up, right? See how that shape lifts up? And this is called a terminating molding because it terminates at the top. It's a ta-da, right? So it's a finishing molding. So there is even in the shapes of these moldings a purpose, a structural purpose that they were meant to communicate. It wasn't just throw a molding up here. It's why I get so frustrated at lumberyard moldings, because they're just bumps and bruises on a board. Just
oh yeah.
They're meant to create shadow lines, but they're not meant there because historically they were there for a purpose.
Yeah, and there's one in particular that's really irritating to me. I just don't like it, but we'll do that in another video. We'll talk about that. But this thing right here, I counted 10 pieces. Now, the most crown buildup I ever done is a 3-piece, pretty basic.
Well, and what builders, you don't work for builders, but builders want to be all this show, you know, to make the most money per square foot. They don't remember, this is the lost art of building, right? That this is very organized the way this is put together. And there's based on a tradition, based on a style, that it's very appropriate in this space. It's not just moldings to show off moldings. It actually communicates scale and purpose and everything else. A thing called the ICAA, Institute of Classical Architecture and Art, and they have these, this is where I've got this, but realize that moldings really are simple tools, okay? So you got plane surfaces, right, flat surfaces, you got concave, convex, and compound. The difference between this cavetto and this scotia, right, is this is based on an elliptical shape, and this is based on a circular shape. Their cornice is actually an elliptical molding. They've got a reeded soffit, okay? So it's still the same organization. You got a bed mold, a cyma, and a corona, but they've extended their soffit. They've pushed their soffit out so that it extends farther into the room. Now what this does is it lightens up more, right? And so you end up having a much softer feel in here with this crown. And so it's really subtle, right? But when you look at moldings for a long time, you can walk into space and go, oh, yeah, really strong. And then you walk into space and go, oh, this is so dainty and nice. A subtle difference that when your eye starts picking it up, it can be pretty magical.
I mean, even just something like this skirt board right here. I mean, seriously, you're not gonna see this stuff on any modern houses either. It's pretty crazy.
This is a very graceful way. Instead of what would happen today is the guy would stop it right here, and then they would cut up this way, and then they would cut over here, they cut it up again, right?
Right.
Instead of this really gentle, pretty sweep, right? Trying to get your base molding to wrap and then tie into your skirt can get really clunky. So if this came across, cut down, came across again and then cut down, it would look, one, it would draw your eye to this spot, which you don't want to do.
Right.
And where this one is just so graceful and is such a pretty sweep, you're like, you don't notice it until you notice it and you go, oh, isn't that pretty the way they did that?
Well, my house is kind of like a lab where I experiment on things. And there's stuff in there that I regret doing, and I'm not going to redo it because I'm just like, I just don't have the time.
No doubt, no doubt.
But again, like once you see something like this, you appreciate it. And again, going back to the contrary, once you see the wrong way, you can never unsee it. So every time you walk right here, you kind of just like, you know, you see that. But this right here, you know, this is all, if I'm not mistaken, is this all one piece? Or is this like a cap on top of that?
I think it's a cap. I think that's what that cut is. And so,
oh yeah, you can see a
So
seam right there.
I think they ran this down and then tied it in, glued it somewhere, and then but this is a pretty
Sweep the way they ran that down. But but it's one thing I love about historic houses is that you see a solution like this, because this is really a carpenter, you know, figuring out how to gracefully do this, and you go, oh well, isn't that nice? I'd never want to cut those jagged angles again, so I see this and I go, well, that's the best solution I've seen. And so you end up discovering tricks for how to do stuff better.
And you know what's crazy about that thought of like looking at historic homes and seeing a solution? Because you'll never see this in a modern house, and it would never cross your mind really. You would just be like, well, this is the way we do it now, and that's it.
That's right.
But what blows my mind, and it's that guy, that carpenter in the 20s was standing right here figuring this out, like in this exact spot. That's crazy.
Well, so you realize that what he was doing is he's looking from that way and going, well, how do I end that molding? Do I return it on itself? Do I cut it down so it goes down to the floor? And he goes, but then I've got this skirt board, and it's going to finish about right here. So how do I organize and solve this? It's a good solution.
Yeah, if there would have been YouTube back then, this would have been 1 million views right here. So Brent and I spent about 2 hours walking through this house, and it killed me to edit this video down so short, but it was really cool having him explain all the finer details of everything we've seen. I mean, we were just appreciating the craftsmanship of the tradesmen that came before us. And if this is your first time seeing Brent Hull or hearing about him, then do yourself a favor, go follow him. I'll put links at the top of the description. You're not going to want to miss the content that he puts out. He has a emphasis on trim, millwork, and all things finished carpentry, which if you watch this channel, you're probably interested in. And he's got an emphasis and a passion for everything historical. So keeping things true to the lost art of building. So I want to say a big thanks to Brent for allowing us on one of his job sites. And he's even said, if people like these videos, if I like these videos, he'll take us on more of them. He'll allow us to bring the cameras. He's got a ton of cool places we can go see, previous jobs that he's done, jobs he's working on currently. And I definitely want to do that. So do me a favor, leave a comment if that's what you want to see, and hit the like button. I usually don't ask for that. I just never do, but I kind of want him to see that this is what people want and that we have interest in it. So do me that favor, hit that like button. Let's engage the algorithm gods and keep this thing moving forward. So thanks for watching, guys. Yep, it's exact same measurement it was in my dreams.